The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the quiet neighborhood, when everything started to unravel. A young black girl, no older than 13, stood alone on the sidewalk near her school, her backpack hanging carelessly from one shoulder. Her name? Amara. She was soft-spoken, always polite, and held a deep respect for others. Raised by a father who taught her the importance of calmness and composure, even when life was unfair, Amara knew the value of keeping her voice down, especially when the world was against her. But today, the world was about to push her too far. As Amara waited for her father to pick her up after school, a police car rolled up beside her, its tires screeching as it came to a stop. The officer inside narrowed his eyes, suspicious. Within moments, what should have been a peaceful, ordinary afternoon spiraled into a shocking nightmare. Amara, with her usual quiet demeanor, calmly explained to the officer that her father was on his way. Her dad worked in the special forces after all. But instead of listening, the officer laughed in her face. Little did he know, what happened next would silence his mockery and leave everyone on the street in complete disbelief. Earlier that day, Amara had stayed behind after school to help her teacher organize a stack of books. She was proud to do it. Her father had always told her, "Service is strength," and she took those words to heart. When she finally left the school grounds, the campus was eerily still. Most of the other students had already gone home. Her father had told her to wait by the main road, so he could pick her up. Standing there, minding her own business, she noticed a police officer's car roll past. Then, to her surprise, it reversed slowly. The officer rolled down his window and called out sharply, "Hey, what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" Amara turned, giving him a soft, polite smile. "My dad's coming to pick me up," she said quietly. "He works in the special forces, but he's running a bit late." The officer's lips twisted into a smirk. "Special forces, huh? That's a new one," he mocked. "And I'm the President of the United States." Amara stood still, confusion growing in her eyes. "No, sir, I'm not lying," she replied, her voice steady despite the growing tension. But the officer didn't believe her. He continued laughing, looking around, realizing no one else was close by. "Let's go," he said dismissively, reaching for her arm. "I'm taking you to the station until we can figure out who you really are." Amara stayed calm. She didn't resist. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Always stay calm, even when they don't treat you right. But as the officer spoke down to her, his words sharp and dismissive, Amara felt her frustration rise. "You kids think you can just say anything. Special forces? That's just a lie to get out of trouble." People began to gather. A few lingering parents, a couple of students still hanging around after school, noticed the commotion and pulled out their phones, recording the scene. Amara, speaking softly but firmly, said again, "I didn't do anything wrong. Please just wait. My dad's on his way." But the officer ignored her, now growing louder so everyone could hear. "You're coming with me," he barked. "You have no ID, no guardian. And now you're lying to a police officer." Just as the officer reached out to grab her backpack, something caught his attention. A sleek black SUV came to a screeching halt across the street. The door swung open, and out stepped a tall, imposing man dressed in full military gear. He exuded power, his presence undeniable. Even from a distance, it was clear he carried himself with a certain authority. Without hesitation, the man strode toward the officer, his boots pounding heavily on the pavement. "Excuse me, officer," he said, his voice deep and controlled. "That's my daughter you're handling." The officer froze. He took a step back, realizing this wasn't just any parent. The man before him wore a Special Forces badge, his rank visible on his uniform. His eyes were piercing, and his stance was one of calm, assured authority. This man was used to leading missions, not to being disrespected. "Who are you?" the officer stammered, suddenly much more cautious with his words. "I'm Master Sergeant David Brooks," the man replied coldly. "I just got back from a classified operation overseas, and now I find my daughter being harassed in the street by a man who should know better." The officer's face strained of color. I didn't know, he muttered, his voice faltering. She said something about special forces. I thought she was joking. David's voice was ice cold as he responded, she's 13. Why would a child lie about something like that? Or are you just used to not believing black kids when they tell the truth? The crowd that had gathered fell into stunned silence. The officer's face reddened in embarrassment, and his head dropped as he realized the gravity of the situation. David turned to his daughter, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Are you okay, sweetie? He asked softly. Amara, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, nodded. He said I was lying. He was going to take me to the station. David's gaze turned back to the officer, his voice now more deliberate and firm than ever. Let me make something very clear, he said. You don't get to put your hands on my daughter because you assumed she was lying. She's done nothing wrong. You didn't believe her simply because of the color of her skin. The officer muttered an apology. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any harm. David's response was swift and unflinching. Intent doesn't matter. What matters is how you treat people. Maybe next time, you'll listen instead of laughing. By now, the crowd had divided. Some were cheering quietly, others stood there, looking ashamed. The officer, now fully realizing the extent of his mistake, stepped back toward his car, eyes downcast. Without another word, he drove off, unable to meet anyone's gaze. David picked up Amara's backpack and threw it over his own shoulder. He gently grasped her hand, and together they walked toward their car, their heads held high. Proud. Unbroken. As they walked away, someone from the crowd called out, You're a hero, sir. But David didn't reply. His only focus was on his daughter. Amara looked up at him, her voice small but filled with gratitude. Thank you for coming, Dad. He smiled down at her, his voice full of unwavering love. Always. No one messes with my little warrior. This story isn't just about a child being disrespected. It's about assumptions, prejudice, and the unshakable power of truth. Amara stayed calm. She spoke the truth, but the world didn't believe her, until her father arrived to remind everyone that dignity, respect, and strength can never be judged by someone's age or the color of their skin. Let this story be a reminder. Never underestimate anyone based on how they look. You never know who's standing behind them, or who they truly are. If this story moved you, please like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, powerful, and real-life inspired stories. Thank you for watching.